Hello everyone, my name is Master Juniper Blue Mystique. What you are about to watch is Justice Day, or what you would call Judgment Day for religion, for the church. Also, it is a healing, a guided healing if you stay the whole way through this video to help remove the collective shadow of religion and what was done. Throughout these videos, you can see who I am, the totality of what the return of Christ was, because that's who I am, and all the damage that was done. This is, after all, the end of ways. So I encourage you to please utilize this video for healing, and not only for healing, but to see the truth. Because in the end, the church did not receive the anointing of the blood of Christ in any way, shape, or form. Please do not bring judgments here. Just be open and receive. Hello everybody, I am here for day 10 of 13. You have to forgive me, I did like 4 healings today on YouTube, so I'm a bit exhausted. I fell asleep, but I'm still a minute early, so that's good. I don't know what day 4 or day 10 is about. Excuse me, it's 4:44. I don't know what day 10 of 13 is going to be about. But for those who don't know me, my name is Master Juniper Blue Mystique. I am an Ascension Master, Master Healer, and a Divine Guide. I have been since 2019 bringing through the return of Christ. It has been a very beautiful and painful journey. Hello, Lisa. I'm glad you're here. I know Justine won't be here and Amy probably won't, so I'm so glad you're here today. I don't know if Gigi's going to make it. She didn't mention it. She might. So I also hold space for her to come. And I'll just call in the energy of Lisa and Amy. Amy and Justine. Also, just in case. Just double time it for them. So welcome. Again, I don't know what date. There's Gigi right there. Look at that. Hi. Hello, hello. Let's pull a quick elemental oracle card on this. I don't know what's going to bring you guys. I'm glad you're here. As I stated, the twin flame thing has been kicking my ass. Well, I have this big, huge, I don't even know how to explain what I'm feeling right now. It's incredible. I don't want to call it painful, because we know I've experienced some pain through it, right? But that's not this. It's not exactly painful, but it's not exactly great. I don't know what's going on here. So yeah, we're just gonna get going. I don't know. Whoa! It's intense. I'm gonna do the best I can to work through it. So I accidentally fell asleep for the last hour after those healings, which were really awesome to do those. So that was cool. All right, let me light my candles here and get prepared, because I did not do that either. So I'll do that. I'll pull a message and then we will just get going. I don't know if it's a bad thing necessarily. I feel like it's the resistance. You know what I mean? I talked about that in the message from Malachi. I'll say that message here again, just in case anybody wants to know it on Facebook. But Malachi delivered a message this morning on YouTube. Absolutely. Don't let them distract you. Tell them go lay down. So Malachi says, reach further and further into the depths of your soul to unlock what needs to be made whole. Release the resistance that is holding you at bay, for it holds tighter when great changes are on their way, right? So wherever there is resistance, and I tell people this a lot, is especially when you go to work with me on the ascension stuff, there's going to be resistance. But for twin flames, there's resistance. For the DM, there's this massive resistance, you guys. It's massive. So we must work through the resistance. Where there's resistance is because it's keeping you from something good. Amy made it. What's up, Amy? Whoop, whoop. Raise the roof. I fell asleep too. I set my alarm for 4:30 just in case. So I'm glad you guys are here. So I'm going to call on the Creator. We're going to pull a quick card, and then we'll get going for day 10 of 13. You guys, we only have 3 more. Can't believe it's going that fast. Oh my gosh. All right, so I call on the Creator of all that is and all the angels too to please be with us here today. I also ask that they help release any great resistance, right? To help release with anything within us that needs to be released, that needs to be seen, and that we can release and work through this resistance that Malachi speaks about, or within us individually especially. But I call in for the highest light in and the highest light out only. And I begin to call in our circle of salt as well. And I put up this protective bubble. And I will say it even more once again when we get going. But I solidify it in this space. Anything with ill intent cannot make it even into this space to wreak havoc in any way. So we remove any energies that do not belong. And we align with the highest light in existence. So be it. And so it now is. Dun, dun, dun. Did you guys notice on the last one, I said it would be the least one that anybody would come to, and that's the truth. I was like, oh, look at that. Only barely 20 people went to that one. And I even said that, like 15, maybe 20. I was like, well, there's no coincidence. At first, because it just takes a lot to get there sometimes, right? To get ready for Christ's light, we have to heal and release the matrix and all kinds of stuff. All right, so what do the elemental oracles have to say for us today? This I would like to know. Let's see. I don't think I pulled this one. Let me make sure I don't have any of this deck. I do. Let's pull it all back in here during the messages earlier from YouTube. That was a lot of fun. But I was like, ooh, I'm tired. And I fell asleep for an hour. Hi, Becca. Hello. Have you been making it to everyone, Becca? Have you done all 9 days so far? Curious to know. Let's see what the cards say for today. Ooh. I like that. So remember I said storms too. There's a lot of storms present, isn't there, across the globe? Well, we have cleansing storms, right? Storms are always meant to disrupt. Sometimes they come to cleanse. They come to purify. They come to cleanse. Sometimes also the storms, if we didn't have great storms, we wouldn't get our asses up and move sometimes too, right? Like sometimes they create the change that we need. So sometimes the storms come to disrupt what is not working. Hopefully y'all can hear me and it didn't freeze. Let's see what else it has to say. Cleansing storms. Also, I talked about the storms. I've been talking about those a lot lately. A lot of people think it's the chemtrails that they're messing with the weather. And that they've done that. I'm not denying that. Now it's just toxic. Now it's just toxicity in your air. But, you know, the poles were shifted and we even created more during 7D activations. And not only that, like we've done so much to the earth with the return of Christ, all darkness removed. You guys, the work that has been done since 2019 is a way to create great storms. Okay. If you know anything about Sekhmet, during drying the Nile, Sekhmet came through. I took on that lifetime, called our power back, cleared the crystal, and opened up the 13th gate. Then Horus returned. And if you know about Sekhmet, Sekhmet creates great destruction for repair and is also filled with lots of love. And so that's kind of what these reflect, okay? Some of these storms, they're not what you think they are. They're here for great destruction for repair, right? Great movement. Great energy releases. All right. So I don't know if Becca has done all the other days. She didn't answer, or I can't see her answer yet. Let's see what else this has to say. Because I know I've seen Becca come in the beginning and then I don't see her in the end. So I'd like to know how she's been doing with them. Right, I know there's at least another card in here, so I'll be patient. Sometimes we need to release the impatience, right? We may want things to hurry up. We may think we don't have time. And I'll tell you right now, that's because you're in the wrong zone of time. There's no time greater than time to heal. We always have enough time to heal. We always have the time we need to get done what we need to get done. It's the illusion that tries to say that we don't. We are in control of our time. Becca says, still feeling super tired. Did you do all 9 days of healing on here of these? Have you done those? The tiredness is normal. It's in the energy for sure. Then we have darkness moon, so shadow components, right? So cleansing storms, causing the shadow to rise even more. And then we have one more. So these are coming up for the healing today for day 10. 10 what? 10 represents new beginnings, right? And sometimes we need destruction for repair. Cleansing storms. Endings bring new beginnings. Azrael, when people talk about Azrael, they call him the angel of death. He is not. He is the angel of rebirth. So if you're doing these, I do recommend doing all the days if you can, or you're going to miss components that could really catapult you to the best place of healing. So we talked about resistance. So where there is resistance, pay attention. It's the shadow, especially when you do this work. Okay, we want to kind of get past that resistance because that's how we take our power back from the shadow. Oh, and then this one we have again. We have rain. But see, I feel like it's like deep releasing for repair again. Deep emotional flow. Deep emotional releasing. Sometimes that's required. So these cards are very interesting. These cards are not light. Let's put it that way. These cards are here to kick your ass. Like the energy is gonna kick our ass. But that way we can truly be whole again, right? Like you see the big hole in her? It's like a big hole almost, right? It's like a big open flowing of rain, cleansing rain. I just feel the need to look that one up really quick. You guys, I opened right to it. The conditions of greater prosperity are being met. Know all that will be well, right? So she feels vulnerable. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry, I'm still half asleep. She feels vulnerable. She's got like this big gaping wound. Know that all will be well. Cleanse yourself of old, outdated views. You have everything you need to grow. Let yourself be cleansed. Okay, fecundatio. Fecundatio, that's the word. That's that word. If you can see it up there, I was like, what is that? That's why I wanted to look up the book. It means fruitfulness. So deep releasing, feeling vulnerable, allowing your emotions to move is what this card speaks volumes for, right? So we have storms for repair, seeing what the shadow does, being brave enough to allow it to expose what needs to be exposed, and then pushing past it and cleansing it out, and knowing that we have everything we need within us to do what we need to do. Okay, so if you have felt resistance to any one of these days, I would have to ask why. Because what I've noticed is every one of these are ascension healings. Right? But we didn't come out and say that, right? Because it has to be done in choices in disguise. But everything I do is ascension based. So if you did day one, there were a lot in day one and less came after. And that's because the shadow got them. Guaranteed. And if you noticed, day 9, less were able to come to, it's because we went up to the ashram of Christ and they got Christ light activations. They have been amazing, haven't they? And that's interesting, Lisa, is because you've gone to all of my ascension ones in the path to righteousness, and you're still receiving out of these. So it tells you the depths of the releasing and the strength required, right? Oh man, is it strength. You guys should understand what I'm feeling with the twin flames. It is kicking my ass. The resistance is like time 50. Like, I don't even know how to describe this. It's hard to breathe. Sometimes I feel like this weight of the world on my chest, and it's like, because the DM is right at the gates. So there's great resistance. Anytime we're about to rise or take a step further, there's going to be resistance. Aww, I love it, right? I know. Sometimes it kicks our ass, but then you realize what a wonderful thing it is. And that speaks volumes for the storms, right? Great storms for destruction. And then the moon. So we have those 3 cards. The moon talks about the shadow components, the darkness within you that needs to rise. And then we have rain and storms, okay? The rain talks about basically abundance, fruitfulness, having what we need. It is an honor. Thank you. Having what, it's priceless, isn't it? We have had 13 days of these. If you put all of them together, if you've done them all, day 1 connected you to your higher self and took your compass inward. And we even lost people after that one. Day 2 dealt with Atlantis rising. So what it started to do is to detach those from the matrix. Then once we did that enough, threw them all, and they were all components. And then by day 9, it was Christ light activations. So, you know, there's a lot to the ascension people don't realize because it is Christ's return. The path into the new earth is all through Christ. So there is 13 gates of healing, karma cleansing, activations, and more. But it takes a lot of healing, not just 13 times healing, right? Like a lot. Awesome. You say that every time. So why? Have you been healing with these? I still haven't got that answer. Did you do all the days of the healing? Because that can cause that. But also, maybe because your soul knows the changes are important. And it also maybe knows that there's solutions there, right? It depends on what you're focused on. All right, so let's just get going. We're going to see what day 10 brings. So I call again on the creator of all that is. They want me to grab my drum and I don't have it. So hold on just a moment. I'm going to grab my drum. Okay, I got it. Sorry about that. I didn't have any time to prep. I woke up from my nap and then I was like, okay, I'm going. And I had to click live. All right, because we healed 2 puppies this morning and then did 2 healings on others. So it's quite great on YouTube. It was amazing. Becca, do you ever go back to them? That's the question. You can go back to them. If you are calling your energy in and you're sitting with them and you're doing the best that you can. Having kids is having kids, but you can also find time like a bedtime after they go to bed every night, right? So I would say be mindful of the resistance. Be mindful of those things because these are pretty important, right? At time, like if you're drawn to them, if you're coming to them and you keep getting pulled away, I would just maybe try again if you feel like you needed to at night. And with our palms up, the reason why we do that is receptive mode, right? You can put your palms down to the ground to release, but we put our palms up for receptivity. And I also say feet on the floor because a lot of people cross their legs to meditate, but the earth is pure light now. So we have cleansed her. She is all rebirthed into the new earth. And so who I am as a healer, I've always said, put your feet on the floor to meditate so you can connect to her and it helps you ground. Okay. So I would definitely try to do that. Be mindful of the resistance because there is great resistance around you and with your DM, your twin flame. And I feel like he anchors into it a little bit. So just be very mindful of any resistance. Oh no, Lisa, let's clear those issues. You guys, I'm having so much pain on me right now. I don't don't know what's going on with the twin flame, but it's incredibly painful. So I call again the creator of all that is and all the angels too to surround us now in the highest light in and the highest light out. We remove all resistance, all distractions, and all haste in our environment. We give space for calmness even in the storms, and we allow their presence to cleanse and cleanse and cleanse more. I put up protections around our connections of the Wi-Fi, of our home, and everything else, and we release what does not matter. Nothing matters at this time, and I slow down time in our surroundings. Our kids matter. I'm not saying that. Oh, I keep buffering. That sucks. But our, you know what I mean. I just calm the chaos in our surroundings. I put up major protections of the highest light as I am removing energies that don't belong. Archangel Michael is coming in to help cut any cords that don't belong, any energy connections that are not aligned. Archangel Azrael is here, like I talked about, and that speaks volumes for the shadow pieces and everything else. Tetonka is also stepping in. Malachi is stepping in. Metatron is stepping in. Sandalphon is with the Seraphim angels are stepping in because he always comes as a Seraphim angel for me. So it's very powerful connections of God's light. The salt circle we began on day 1, I am encasing us all in it again for day 10 of 13 of angel healings for the ascension. I call on Father Sky and Mother Earth, the moon and the sun. I call on the waters to wash away what it needs to wash away and expose what's been undone. I call on the land to move, to crack, to shake, to anchor into in every way. And I call on the air to take us on great adventures into new space and new territory. I call on the north, the east, the south, and the west, and the west back to the north, anchored into the highest divine support and connection possible, the new earth. I call in all the energies of the pyramids, but not to connect to us individually, to surround us in the highest light that it possibly can, and to allow anybody to at least feel what they can, okay? Because you have to heal through those portals to really connect to those energies. But they are into the energy of this space. I call on God's healing grace, connecting to the earth to the most profound degree, so we can see clearly, hear clearly, feel clearly, and know everything we need to see. So be it, and so it now is. Let's just begin doing the best we can, closing our eyes, putting our feet on the floor and our palms facing up in receptive mode, being open to receive. I'm removing a lot of chatter, so there's a lot of people trying to convince others of what might be right, but how can something I say be wrong if everything is a reflection of me? For I am the one who brought it all through. So everything in truth is a reflection of little fragmented pieces of the one. Nothing is outside of that. There is no division. That is unjust and all being undone. Gabriel is here. Saint Germain was here with the Akasha records again. Tetonka is placing a fire in the center. So we have a beautiful fire in the center of all of us. So just close your eyes. Breathe into your body the best that you can. I do have Hertz music, even if you can't hear it. It is in our energy. It is the sacral chakra, the heart, and the throat. Ooh. You guys, there's great resistance afloat. Great resistance. So I'm going to begin by bringing down the light from the heavens above through the golden rays of the sun and of the one. Coming down through all of our chakras above, down through our energetic vortex, opening up and releasing havoc and any energy that is stuck and that causes us to not manifest. And bringing that energy down all of the chakras, slowly, even more, down towards our crown. When I open the door of connectedness, opening the door through the crown into the third eye and the causal chakra as well. Because I think we even activated that on one of these, right? And down from there into the throat. And this is where I am meeting resistance. The truth shall set you free. The truth is your strength and your power, even if it feels hard to do. We ask to open up any resistance we possibly can. So I am feeling a shadow component with Tetonka and the moon. Some of you are getting a slight activation in the throat to even hear and understand the language that comes out of my mouth when I speak the language of God. Because what you don't understand is I undid the darkness from all of the light, and then I brought back the light of God. It was taken away from here a long time ago. People couldn't speak that language anymore, just to not cause any problem. That doesn't mean there wasn't light language here, but there were different levels of it. What I speak is pure language of God. This is what was taken from the people a long time ago. So as I say that, I see like this language lighting down the throat, almost like how they depict that, right? Like on movies and things with aliens or whatever, or what have you. You can see like this light going down the throat in light language. Kambao. Activating the throat chakra deeper to the language of God. Not all can receive, though I can see that, but most can. And with that, I'm able to bring the light down further from the throat into the new chakra between the heart and the throat for some, and down into the heart for others. Opening the heart like a book. So with the way I'm seeing the heart open is like, you know how you go into a storm? Here we go again with the reflections of the storm. But you go into the storm cellar. It's like those doors that opened up to like underground. Like the storm cellar. Opening up places that haven't been opened in a very long time. Or at least not often. And I'm able to draw the light down from the throat into the heart deeply. So just close your eyes and relax more and more with every breath. Being sure to breathe into the tummy and release. Tetonka is with a fire in the middle. He is a shaman. He was a Sioux master, a shadow master. He loves to heal shadows of the earth. He helped me, I think, in Mount Shasta Part 1. I can't remember. He helped me also in the Stepping Stones to Awakening and more. So I want you to imagine we are sitting and it's nighttime and there is a beautiful fire in the center, like you're at a camp, right? And it's all wood. There's tons of wood underneath our butts. We're sitting on a wooden bench. And the beautiful fire in front of us, surrounded by wood as well. And Tetonka is walking around throwing things in the fire. Great releasing of shadow, but more, because there's a lot of us here. Different energies here, I should say. Some of us have done all the shadow healing required to make it into the new earth. and others have not. So this will be individual, to say the least. Those that got activations here that are new, the rest of us got like an upgrade to the throat chakra. As I'm taking the light now from the heart space down through and into the solar plexus. I have to hold on because this is where I'm having great resistance, and I know it deals with the twin flame. So I really want to, it's painful. I'm having a hard time getting the light into the solar plexus, so I'm just giving it space and releasing. I'm bringing in deep releasing energies and light. I can feel that. And I'm bringing calm to the storm in the solar plexus. That's what I'm doing right now. And that's what I feel like I'm doing for all. So we pulled cards of storm, didn't we? And in the one card, it was like a big hole in her gut area of releasing and opening and vulnerability. It can be hard to feel vulnerable. So I'm bringing great calm to the storm in the solar plexus right now for all. And I'm starting to go now from the solar plexus down through the chakras that are necessary and into the navel and into the sacral. Woo. There, more resistance has been applied. So I'm working my way through the sacral. It's like almost like through a stone wall. So I'm just breaking down this stone wall. Sometimes we build walls for protection, don't we? And it usually stems from a wound. I'm calming more of the storm, calming more of the inside, releasing, at least attempting to, what I can. With the down, because this one's just usually to ground. So I'm opening and releasing and moving what I can on this round. And then I take the light further into the root. And down the legs and the root. So there's 3 connections coming down. And I already know we won't be able to connect to the core because she's expanding and won't allow anybody to connect to her at this time. Even if you think you are, you're not. So I'm taking those down through the surface of the earth, through the earth star chakras for some and chakra for others. Down into the layers of the earth. And into the crystalline grid and the roots of the trees. And we are anchoring our cords in there like tree roots, just as tree roots do. They are anchoring out and spreading out and growing like roots all across the crystalline grid floor. And Tetonka is going to come around to each of you now and place not a cross, but an ankh of ash from the fire on your forehead. So he is placing an ankh of ash, that is the only true cross, an ankh of ash on your forehead. And I am opening a scroll. It looks different than all my other scrolls. This one looks, it's not glowing in God's light necessarily. I mean, they're all very important and relevant. But usually when I get a scroll directly from God, it's glowing and light. This one looks just directly from Tetonka. It might have to do with religion. I'm not sure. But I am opening the scroll. And all of us have been called in that are here now and that will be here later. I don't know what this scroll is, but it's in my hands and I'm opening it. And I'm going to begin now drawing the light up from the earth of masculine and feminine. And I'm also from the crystalline grid and through the fire, I am drawing a line directly to the moon. So a line from the crystalline grid through the fire and directly to the moon. And I'm almost like lassoing the moon into it. I'm grounding the moon through this fire of this shadow healing component, which I've already removed all shadow from the moon itself, but this is also directly related to the twin flames. So the masculine, divine masculine energy, shadow healing possibly, I don't know. I'm not assuming, and I have no expectations. I'm just doing what I saw. So I'm bringing the light, a straight line through the crystalline grid, through the fire, and up to the moon. And it's basically grounding the moon to the earth through a purification fire. And as Tetonka is drawing the Ankh on your forehead, if that's already starting to release your shadow, good. If that's already starting to cause angst and anger and deception to begin to wreak havoc inside, good. Let it. Because the only trueness of the cross is the Ankh. It was broken. And then they mocked you, hanging Jesus on it because they stole his soul. If you don't believe me, watch the resurrection of Christ that occurred on Christmas Day, live on my YouTube channel. We undid the Holy Grail, which was not holy at all. He was burned and tortured, and his blood was stolen. Hence, the anointing of the blood of Christ. So Tetonka is like almost like humming a tune and putting that cross on your forehead, and as he's finishing, he goes back to the fire and he's throwing something in. It's like poof, and it turns to the color blue. Poof. The mountains, the trees, the sky above, great changes are upon you. So I draw up the light from the crystalline grid through the connections we have anchored in, all the way up your connections through your Earth Star chakra and into your feet. It begins. From your feet to your ankles, to your calves, to your knees, to your thighs, and to your hips. Gambalo. In the root chakra, deep in the root I go, to expose what needs to move, what needs to bring light, and what needs to show. I'm going to deeply focus into the root for right now. And I will use the drum as needed, but I need to also focus. So as I'm in the root, I'm drawing up like this cord of light that reaches from the fire into the earth and into our connections. And it's going to expose deep hidden truths for all, whether this be your shadow or somebody else's. whatever it is that's affecting our presence, our clarity, our ease, our grace, and our timelines is going to be drawn out now. And it's going to come out and sit next to you on your bench. So there is major shadow components here for some that have not done this yet. Be aware. Shadow healing with me is different than you will find anywhere else because of who I am and because it's for the ascension. Once we draw the shadow out completely, it is your job to whatever plays out in your reality, because it's your karmic based, to not let it back in. Those that have worked with me before are aware of this. They've done this before, and it won't affect them like it's affecting you guys. This is a shadow component of a karmic kind. Okay, so when the shadow comes out, whether it be individual or collective, it's going to try to get back in the way you let it in before. Because no shadow exists in us unless we have let it in. Some is through childhood, but most is not. So Tetonka is taking a piece of the fire and shoving it into the root to each one of you. And it's going to burn and release deep shadow components. We are also doing the relesion. So once I do this, I will do something to the earth with the scroll. Okay? And then all churches and crosses are going to burn to the ground. If that bothers you, that's your shadow. That's your deep connection to the false doctrine. It's not real. It was not of God. And they use the components of light to divide, to hurt, and to conquer, control. God is not fear. God is not division. God is love and love only. God would never hurt his own child like what was done to Jesus and Mary Magdalene and Adam and Eve and Sekhmet and Horus. So I'm in the root. I will save the drum for when I get to the scroll. And Tetonka is helping to bring out deep parts of the shadow. So I'm drawing it out and drawing it out and drawing it out and setting it next to you on the bench. So by the time we're done, there will be a full shadow sitting next to you. This is one layer of it. There's a few times we do this in the ascension work. This is part of a collective shadow, not an individual. That is what must be removed first. Now, for some of us that have already done this, it's different. It's just helping to heal and remove what needs to be exposed, so we can take our healing further and our light can shine brighter. Okay? So within the root, we have removed one component, and I'm going to dive deeper. I'm severing its connection from the earth to your root and to your soul. And I'm drawing it out even more. And Tetonka takes a chunk of that fire and he shoves it into the root to do it more and more and more. There's a word of discipline coming out here. It's understanding what discipline is from the matrix to spiritual. There's the difference between matrix discipline to spiritual discipline. And that is rising out here right now. There's also a difference between religion and God. That is rising out right now of the root for all. Justice is not judgment. It is not your job to judge anybody, and God doesn't even judge anybody, so why would you? Right? Nobody is perfect. That's a big thing religion does, is judge, and it's false and it's painful. So there's big components of the shadow based in judgment here rising from the root, and it hurts. It doesn't feel too great. This is deep releasing. And there is resistance. And it's almost like I have to take the shadow and cut it from the root, like literally cut it with a knife. And then we're going to go up from there to the sacral. Oh gosh, forgive me. There's a lot going on in my solar plexus. We are now in the sacral, and Tetonka is going to the fire, and he's throwing something in the fire and is turning it bright orange. Pow, and it just bright orange. There is deep resistance here from the truth. Why would we accept untruths? We have been so anchored into a false reality. We don't know what is true from what is not. We have been taught that it's sometimes okay to lie when we are anchored into a lie. You were anchored into a lie, upon a lie, upon a lie, upon a lie, and they would use fragments of truth to hide that lie and to allow you to accept it, because nothing happens to you, only through you. So there's also the energy of the false goddess in the sacral. It's time to understand what true God is, what true beauty is, and what true love is. Not conditional, but unconditional. Tetonka takes a piece of that orange fire and shoves it into your sacral. So again, I'm having to cut it from the sacral. It doesn't want to be released. Like it's holding on. There's a lot of resistance. Now remember, storms are cleansing. They're not meant to... Nothing is meant to stay the same right now. It has to change. It has to change. It has to move. It has to rearrange. The whole existence and what you were accustomed to is unfolding in front of your eyes. But some are so anchored in, they cannot see the truth through God's eyes, true God's eyes of unconditional love. And it's like I'm like cutting away that shadow component. And then I'm diving deep into the sacral, and it doesn't feel comfortable. No, it doesn't. It's deep. And this is a collective shadow, not necessarily the individual ones. Oh, you guys, it hurts. It doesn't feel that great. There's deep resistance, so I'm pulling the shadow component. I'm pulling it and pulling it and cutting it off and drawing it out and drawing it out and drawing it out into a shadow component sitting next to you on the bench. So now you have a person sitting next to you that only has legs, a buttocks, and a lower torso. It's a shadow of a collective component based in religion and false ties. So I didn't realize we were starting to remove the collective shadow component of religion and more. So I'm drawing the light up now from the sacral into the navel, which also connects to the umbilical cord of ancestral ties, and all the way up into the solar plexus. Why would this be done on day 10? Because it's about being reborn. As I go into the solar plexus, Tetonka again is going around to all of you and drawing another layer of the Ankh on your forehead. If that bothers you, don't allow your shadow to stop this religion healing. Okay? Don't allow your shadow to stop that component, because you'll anchor in. Allow it to bother you, but allow yourself to open up to the truth. So he's drawing an ankh on your forehead with the ash from the fire. And then he's going back to the fire and he's throwing something else into the fire. And it's turning bright yellow. That was weird. So as he did that, I see these shadows like rising from it's not rising from the earth, but it's like the collective shadow rising from the ground and coming up, and it's not happy. You know what I mean? It's like it's evoked. This has nothing to do with the earth, because I've already done it for the earth. This has everything to do with those that show up to this healing. And if you've already had this done, it's either doing it again if it needs to, or exposing deep truths. And it's also healing. So I'm going into the solar plexus now, deeply and deeper and deeper. And I'm taking it deeper into the solar plexus. I feel like I'm walking deeper into the depths and deeper into the depths and deeper into the depths of the solar plexus. I feel like I just walked into a very deep space of the center of your existence. And I'm going to reach my hand down into the layers and the depths of your solar plexus. And I'm going to remove this collective component of a shadow. And I'm reaching down and I'm yanking it out. And then I have to cut it because it does not want to let go. And then I see all those weird shadow figures dancing around like, they're pissed. They are pissed. They don't like it. They're going to try to get back in. So you must remain strong and choose only love. Unconditional love. You must know the difference. There will be a lesson playing out in your environment that will try to let this back in. Your decision has to be through free will, through lessons in disguise. Once you choose love, true God, true love, unconditional, and you clear it, then you go through the portal. And on to deeper layers of healing. That's the way it works. So I'm still in the solar plexus. There's more. I'm kind of reaching my hand again down into the yellow swirl of energy. And these are hidden. These are hidden shadows. These are hidden shadow components because they were given to you through lies and in disguise. So you didn't even realize that's what they were. And as I'm pulling this one out, it does look like that female, the false goddess. It has that kind of energy in it. And then as I pull it out, like the skin falls off and it's exposed to what it truly is. Exposures to what these truly are for those around you that are not of light. It's like their skin changes, their face changes, and they cannot hide anymore. And when I did this for the ascension, I said those that are not of light will start to change in looks. They will not hide and be able to hide anymore who they are. And that's happening across your globe. When people are like, oh my God, what happened to this person? Oh my gosh, what happened to this person? They just can't hide anymore. And this is going to happen in your close environment. So I'm pulling it out and cutting it off, and I'm setting it next to you on your bench. Drawing the light up now into the heart space, and Tetonka is going to come around again and draw another ankh on your forehead with the ash from the fire. Again, an ankh. And he's also putting one where your heart is, an ankh. And he's going back to the fire, and he throws in something into the fire. Boom! And it turns it bright green. Uncomfortable measures bring great treasures. Uncomfortable measures expose, expose. The storm is here to clear the path for all to see, to see. You must see the truth, you must see the truth, and you must let them go. That feels good, actually. That helped my solar plexus more than you know. So I am now in the heart space. I'm going deep into the heart. The heart is very beautiful. It's green and glistening with blue and stars. And I'm going to draw forth the shadow of the collective component, so it needs to be seen. Again, these are hidden in truth. These are hidden through lies and anchored with a tiny bit of truth, and that's how they get you. That's why it's so hard to let them go. People built their morals and values across its false doctrine. And when that hits, they can either choose to not see and not rise, or deal with the pain and face changing skies. So I feel like I'm like going around the heart, and then all of a sudden I caught something. I caught the shadow. It was moving. It was constantly moving. That way it was also harder to see. And I'm pulling it out. It looks like a shadow person, right? And I'm pulling it out from disguise. Again, things around you are going to change. You are going to see what needs to be seen. It's time. But it's your job to not let them manipulate you emotionally and through any shackles that bind. You let them in. It's time to not let them in again. That's the only way to ascend. You can't have any shadow in you to ascend. Now, these are collective components, so they're big. And I am removing it from the heart space and putting it into the being next to you. This being is only now missing like the shoulders and the head. There's one more in the heart. I feel like this one's connected through the moon, through all of you. I've already healed the moon, but it's in the individual collective shadow. So the collective shadow component that affects you all, I should say it like that. So Tetonka is taking a piece of the fire and shoving it into your heart space. And I feel like this one's coming through the television, you guys. Through the deep-seated programming. This is interesting because it's not how it happened in the ascension for the earth, but it's how it's happening for you individually. For the earth, I undid the darkness of the moon and all their control and their satellites, and I made their ears bleed. And for you individually, I'm reaching into the depths and I'm pulling out their programming and how they get you. And one of the main ways they get you is the media. Things you watch, things you listen to. It's all deep-seated programming. And it was a shadow hidden, and I've grabbed it and I'm starting to pull it out, and I have to cut it off and place it into the being next to you on your bench. And as I'm beginning now to draw it up to the throat, Tetonka again is coming around with another ash ankh on your forehead, not a cross, the true cross. And as I do this, each layer of this begins to burn the false cross. It has to burn, it has to burn. This one reminds me of Salem also, so I'm almost like seeing Salem. So we cleared Salem a long time ago, a couple years ago now, maybe 3 on the ascension journey. We really did. We took out all darkness and we freed the souls, but some of you still had like collective soul ties there and karmic playouts. So But I'm not just anchoring into Salem here. This is a wider component than that. So I'm drawing into this to the throat fully, but I'm literally blocked. It's almost like shocking. It's almost like all these exposures might be shocking. It's hard to see. It can be hard to digest. And it creates like a grief component here in the throat. So Tetonka is going back to the fire, and he grabs something and he throws it in. Bam! And it changes to a different blue. The first blue is more of the moon reflection type stuff. This one is your throat. So now I'm in the throat, and now I need to expand it out. It looks almost like a tornado, right? Because the throat moves energy. The throat either expresses energy out or takes it in. And so this one looks more like a vortex of energy, like it's bigger at the top and then it goes smaller towards the bottom and into the heart. So we have to be careful what truths we accept. There's a lot of emotional manipulation. The karmic energy does that a lot. It's going to manipulate you emotionally. It makes you feel guilty. Guilt is not of God. No. Emotional manipulation. Neither is divorce. When God marries somebody, they don't divorce. Like he married my DM and I. The only way to undo that is to rip our souls apart. It's different. Marriage is different. There's a false marriage and a true marriage. So these are structure ties. So again, truths are going to be exposed. There's a lot of hidden shadow components in music in Hollywood, right? We're learning that. That's starting to rise. Some are truly seeing it, but we need to also remove the shadow. And then there's a lot of emotional manipulation through the religion aspect, which is not of God. It's not of light. A lot of confusion. They've thrown a lot of darkness into what is God. And those of light chose to use them against God. Those not of light took the tools of light and threw darkness within them. Okay? And this is coming out of the throat. It's like all the lies you've been fed through a silver spoon. And it's like, I feel like I'm gagging in my throat. It's hard to get this one out. It's anchored in very deeply to a lot of people. But I caught it. It's like I caught it. I kind of caught it. It's constantly moving. Again, there's like constant movement of these shadows. They like to be hidden. They don't like you to know who they are or what they are or where they come from. They're hidden. And so I'm pulling it out and I have to cut its tie and I'm placing it into the being next to you. This is a shadow you don't want to let back in. And then I see the ankh light up big time at the throat. It's like, the truth shall set you free. That's the only thing that can. And then I'm moving up from the throat to the third eye. This is the triangle with the eye. The all-seeing eye used to be over darkness. It was over Mount Shasta, which is where El Diablo resided. That's not a joke. There's a lot of spiritual people who allowed that darkness to anchor in through that light. So exposure of the false prophets and what is not true. So there's like three. It's like bam, bam, bam. 3 shadow pieces. I'm ripping out of the third eye. You guys, these are not good components. These have big karmic kickbacks. To take God's light and to taint it and to hurt people is not a good thing. United they fall, united we stand, once and for all. And then there's one more. It's like, I grabbed it, I yanking it out of the third eye, and I'm throwing it into the being next to you, sitting on your bench. It's almost complete, and now I'm going up into the crown. Tetonka is coming around and doing one final onk from your nose all the way up to the crown, an onk of ash. Then he goes to the fire and he throws this big thing in, wow, and it changes the color from like an indigo to a purple to a blue and white. Indigo, purple with a blue hue and white. And then I take a chunk of the fire and throw it in to the third eye and crown. They're connected in the causal. And then I'm seeing like all the battles play out. Battle of Gettysburg, we cleared because it was through a puppet master. All these battles, all these lies, even all the way back to Abraham Lincoln, which in Mount Shasta, I cleared that. You were not free. You were enslaved by darkness and controlled by a puppet master. So all of those like ashy, soulless beings that were the shadow that was kind of getting mad and being invoked around you is turning into ash. There's a lot of components that have to be removed to connect to the new earth. That's not a lie. The crown, the third eye, and the causal are all connected to Mount Shasta in a very big way. Very big way. There were a lot of contracts that were burned also, that were undone, that you have to rectify. If you ever worked with anybody that did that, they were destroyed, and you cannot heal them into the light that way. So all truths are being exposed here. So I'm reaching in and I'm grabbing out. It's like I'm reaching into the brain structure to everything, and I'm grabbing out. And this is including the V, everything that they've thrown at you to try to control you, to create fear, to create lack, all of the shackles of the mind. And it's being removed and thrown into the complete shadow person sitting next to you now. You can now look at the puppet master. In Mount Shasta Part 2, Archangel Samael was the original fallen angel, and he burned. And then I removed the triangle with the eye and returned it back to Fiji, which is the Earth's root chakra. This is a download of that playing out in your head. That's what caused the flood, not God. This is a shadow component you don't want to integrate back in. We are not turning it light. We are not integrating it back in. There's a reason I had to cut them and rip them out. So Tetonka is taking all of those components of the fire, and he's putting a barrier around you, and he is going to take a chunk of that fire and throw it into the shadow of the collective that was in you, and it's going to burn to ash. But you cannot let these lessons play back into you, and they will try in lessons in disguise. And it's a way you've let it in before, through collective conditioning. Now I will do the scroll. And as I do the scroll, I have the council sitting next to me, and I'm like on a pillar, and it looks like I would be in the hub of Atlantis again. And I'm glowing white. I have a crown on my head, and I'm glowing white. And I'm speaking to the gods and the council, and then to the collective soul. And there is a church in the center what I see is like a church in front of me, and it's on a cliff, and it's dangling over this huge pit, and at the bottom of the pit is like fire, so it almost looks like it's at the bottom of a volcano type of a thing. And I'm gonna read this scroll, and as I do that, light's gonna come up, and we'll see what else happens. What this looks like is a small white building with a cross on top, the false cross, and Jesus hanging from it, and that's not a good thing. I've told you that. So in the resurrection that happened on Christmas Day, Jesus had been poisoned through cyanide, through John the Apostle, by bread and wine. That's why they do that at church. They make you eat the bread and the poison, the wine that killed him, and they tell you it's a good thing. And it's not. It takes you away from God to do that, and you don't even realize it. You don't realize what the church is doing to you. So all of the pastors are now having this black like cloak on them, and the cross is hanging upside down. And that was actually exposed through the UK and underneath the White House. So the monarchy and the White House have these tunnels underneath them, and there's all these beings with black robes, and they have crosses upside down on their chest. The false cross, again, not an ankh. The ankh is the only cross of God. And it doesn't have a man hanging on it with blood coming down. That is gross. That's not of light at all. One would never worship that through God. God does not believe in bloodshed. That's not okay. And then after that, they got married to gather his blood in the cup. That's what they called the Holy Grail, and it wasn't. And she was covered in his blood, freaking out because that was her twin soul. She watched him die. Then they forced her to gather his blood. Then they took the blood from her in that cup, John the Apostle and 4 others, and they were in black robes with an upside down cross. And with that, they wrote a contract in Jesus' blood. It was written in Hebrew, and it stole the souls of all of God. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Hence, religion was born. And then in Vladimir's bloodline, they got him to lust and to allow harm in even more. And it created Catholicism. It changed the base of religion. And then the King James versions became to be born slowly from there. So the only true info of God they've hid from you, and most of it was in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they even hid a page of that from you. But it's going to be found if it hasn't already. I undid the Holy Grail on Christmas Day of 22, and I united Jesus and Mary Magdalene once again because it ripped their souls apart. And then those souls went into my DM and I. This is the return of Christ. I will now read the scroll. It's time for exposure once and for all through the collective shadow. So I feel like I do have Vladimir by me, and I have this weird white building with a cross on top in front of me hanging on a cliff. And then I have the council, the gods, the galactic council as well, all with me. And I will read this scroll, and this scroll is going to reflect in the hearts of God and in the minds of those connected to the One. Time is being undone. Bundo golong gomba da iu. Gombala cantalo contalo 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 compoto wa. Here que la cana calocata para la canta la cata munto wa. Pongondo wa. Chianta la calocapala calocapala anda walanka le wanka le tiriam polo wata da yam pawala. The first churches were born in sacrifice of blood. And I see all this blood now starting to fall from the cross above this White House that is not of God. great suffering of women and children, and division of love. I'm seeing like the KKK. It's a division of this, and they would dress them in white for a reason. What you would call the puppet masters wear black with an upside down cross, and they mock you, and they mock you, and they get you to drink this blood through the cup with the wine and the poisons through all of time. All this blood is coming down the cross and drenching this house that was white. And it's now blood red for the foundation it was built upon. And then the church from the school. They removed God from the school. God is not in the school. And all the blood, it's so much control. And it's lies, and it's lies, and it's lies and control. And I see all these shackles on everybody's ankles, and they were made slaves. They were made slaves more than you know. They freed no one. They freed no one. They divided more and divided more and divided more and confused your soul and ripped your soul from the light of God and closed the 13th gate from heaven. And that house and the house of the school just burned. And the pillar it was sitting on crumbled down to the depths of the fire below. And the scroll that I used through God's language to undo what has been done in the collective soul even more has just faded away. You must see, you must hear, you must know the truth. And from there I see all of these things burning, churches and schools, boof, 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 exposures, exposures, exposures galore. So much bloodshed, lies, and using God's light to hurt you. All crosses burning. I feel like they're just being called into that pit of fire. And Tetonka took all of that components of the fire, and through the protection of the Ankh upon you, threw it into that pit. Boof. And a big, huge boof across the collective soul. This is the return of Christ. Are you still going to resist the truth? That is up to you. But know who you are anchoring in, because divided, they fall. United, we stand once and for all. And I feel like I closed the book, right? I closed the chapter, I closed the book. And all of that went into your heart. I saw the light in your heart and your crown, and then it closed and it just stayed. And your eyes are still slightly glowing. This is across the collective soul as well. Now Tetonka was helping to start removing the ash from the shadow that was next to you. That's nothing you want to reintegrate with. That was a collective shadow. It will try to get back in. It will try to do what it did to you to get in before. So this is karma based for all. Your karma will play out in lessons in disguise. It is up to you. Use strength. Those that do the path to righteousness, I help one-on-one. This is up to you. So choose wisely. Own your truth. But from this day forward, you will have no choice but to see the truth. And I feel like the TV just went to black and white fuzz. Like the broadcast station just went to black and white fuzz. It lost signal. And all the pyramids just kind of dissipated in the energy. And you are met back at the bench with the fire. The council dissipated. I am no longer on the pillar. I feel like the storm has now passed. Tetonka is making sure you are prepared to come back to the space and time. That was deep, hidden, shadow components of the collective aspect. So understand it will try to get back in through the way it got in through you before, because nothing happens to you, only through you. And some of you have deep karmic ties to these past spaces. From Salem to Gettysburg and more. All the way to Mount Shasta, Abraham Lincoln's contract that was not of light. That's why he was murdered, because he didn't like what they were doing. Know your truth. If you watched my videos, you would have known. If you didn't, let the shadow stop you. And then I feel like your Akasha records were just closed. They were all recorded in too. Oop. And the fire is being removed from our energy. And one by one I will reground you, and you will be no longer on your bench. But I'm bringing you back into your physical vessel, completely. Instead of feeling like you are empty and you've lost pieces of you, it has been replaced with light. So where the collective shadow was has been replaced with light, but it is your job to keep that light. Trials and tribulations. Revelations 21:12. 13 gates to get through. Darkness can never be here again, but it is exiting. That's all it can do. Choose your choices wisely. Take your focus to your feet, your ankles, your calves, and your knees and your thighs. Wiggle your toes. Take your focus up your torso, down your arms, and into your fingers, and wiggle those. And then to your face and your head and your hair. And bring yourself back to this present space and time. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes. And I am now removing the salt circle. So I'm sorry if there was a lot of buffering. I don't know why. I do apologize. Hopefully when the recording puts up, it will be solid and you can do it again if you need to. Again, it was a good hour of healing. I'm hardwired in, so I don't know why the internet would have any issues. Even went off Wi-Fi. There's probably a reason, because you guys may not have realized what I just did. So Tetonka removed all collective shadow of religion and more. And then we burned the church and all crosses. I got a scroll, and that was a collective shadow that cannot reintegrate. So hopefully it will be okay when it completely posts and not in the live. That was deep and emotional for me to see what I just saw. All the bloodshed, all the women and children crying and torturing and dying. And the division and the power being more important than love. And again, we started with 4 and we ended up with 3. So I don't know who stayed. So even Gigi said it was buffering. Lisa said it was buffering. Amy said it was having a hard time. I don't know why. I'm totally sorry about that. Cross our fingers. It works because it was important. So could there have been interference? Yeah. For that one, I would understand it. Okay. Let's try to watch it again if you need to. But you were called in. So those that have done that removal, this one was different. This time I had a scroll and we were undoing all of religious ties for the collective shadow. Sweet. Gigi stuck with it. Woo woo. Yay. All right. We'll try it again too if you need to. It was important. Yes. And when they're really important, sometimes there's always interference. So I apologize. My internet is paid for. I have the strongest internet that you can afford, that you can buy, and I'm hardwired in. So I don't know why that was happening. Sweet. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't do that on the recording. I really hope not once it posts. That was big, you guys. The church is burned and fell into the pits. The blood went down the cross and it just kind of... The whole white church turned blood red. It did not receive the anointing. None of the religion received the anointing of the blood of Christ. It's going to fall in blood. Okay. Well, I'm going to get off because it's still buffering and hopefully it will upload clearly. Okay. And it kicked my ass. So I hope you guys can see this one again. If you can, let me know what you think of it in the comments. Okay. Because it was quite important. All right. I love you guys.